you are not only going to learn how to do a painting, you have a chance to actually win that painting at the end of the broadcast when it's done. Meet Jed Dorsey. Hey, Jed, what are you going to do today?
Well, I am going to paint from start to finish, painting right here on a black canvas, which is going to be super fun. And I'm going to give away this painting at the end of the time to one of the people who comments in this section. And I'm going to show you some techniques on how to layer and do things that are, I'm going to be working in acrylic, but they're applicable to oil for sure. And some of them, you know, are drawing from watercolor techniques as well. So really fun.
Outstanding. Well, why don't we get started?
Okay, sounds good.
All right.
So
okay.
I'm going to be painting.
I'm going to just put him on full screen now.
Okay. So I'm going to be painting this scene. I live in, by the way, thanks, Eric. I'm kind of amazed at you. I feel like I want to ask you some questions while I'm here, but I'll tell a little bit about where I'm painting this from. So I live on Camano Island, Washington. So it's a little island north of Seattle, not too far, but a little ways north. And you know, we're known for rain in the Northwest. And one of the things that I wanted to do was really just kind of show that there's a lot of beauty in the Northwest. And this is kind of what I look at in the summer at one of the little beaches that's close by. And but you know, Eric, I was thinking, you know, I was kind of worried about you when you were doing live streams every day. I was, you know, because I was like, man, wow, he's incredible in this.
You were worried about me. You thought I was going to keel over? Is that the deal?
I just thought, like I was, you know, how many days in a row did you actually do it? Because I know you're doing it 5 days a week now, but.
Well, I did. This is day number 317. I did, I think, 7 months in a row without stop.
Oh.
And then I went to weekdays only, but I'm still doing 7 days in a row for the 3 p.m. broadcast.
Oh, are you really? Wow. Well, it's crazy. It's amazing, and I'm super impressed with that. So I'm just basically what I'm doing is I'm just doing my drawing, you know, like there's nothing really fancy about what I'm doing here, except I'm just using a red because sometimes it's nice to have a little sparkle behind the colors. You know, you're painting on a black canvas and, you know, but you don't want it to be just a dull painting. Sometimes you can cheat a little bit and get, a little bit of color in your drawing underneath, and a lot of times when that shows through in the end, you know, you have a little bit more to work with that's going to be interesting, and you can cover it up, of course, if you want, but that's why I'm using this red here.
Now, can you tell us what kind of paints you're using, what kind of canvas, and what kind of brush? Because everybody always wants to know.
Absolutely, yeah. So this is a Centurion linen panel. These are great. These are kind of my go-to panels. I really like them. And what's funny is I was mentioning to you right before we got on here, I feel like my mother-in-law, who every time she has guests over, she doesn't pull out her tried and true recipe. She always goes with a new recipe. And I always laugh at that because I think, like, why don't you go with something that you know, you're used to? And, you know, you had Gil Dellinger, if I'm saying his name correctly, on the other day, and he mentioned something about his acrylic paints that he was using. And he said, these are Winsor Newton. And I was kind of intrigued by them because he said they are kind of a new formula, and they don't have any color shift. And
this is the Winsor Newton Pro.
Yeah, so this is the Winsor Newton Pro here, and I actually ordered them that day that he was on, and he talked about that, or the day that I watched it, and got a rush ordered here. So this is my first time actually using these, you know, so that was what I was saying, is that's my excuse if my painting doesn't turn out well. I can always just say, well, it's my first
and
time.
What do you normally use, Jed?
You know, a lot of times I use Utrecht right here. So this is kind of, they're nice, thick, heavy body paints. So that's kind of what I go with. And the other thing that I'm doing that's a little bit different today is I'm using, I kind of switched up. A lot of times I have a different color right here. This is usually in my palette, like 80% of the time in the last year, I'd say I've used a different color for my red that leans a little bit more towards violet. And I didn't really want to have violet as much in this painting, so I went with cadmium red there.
Okay, so what red would it normally be?
I normally use quinacridone red because it's, and the funny thing is I found that names of paints don't matter that much. You know, like you can look up quinacridone red and find it in one paint company and it will be a different pigment than another company's, you know, the same name, quinacridone red. So I always find that I have to, you know, just make sure I'm actually buying the color that I want by looking at the pigment name.
Yeah, they put the pigment number on the tubes.
Yeah. So tell me, what's something that you've learned that you maybe weren't expecting from doing the live streams so frequently, and you know, like, I mean, I know you have vast amount of contacts and you've done an awesome job in getting lots of people involved and stuff, but is there anything that was surprising to you over those 7 months and beyond?
Well, I think thanks for asking. The only thing, Jed, is that sometimes you learn what you're made of, right? Yeah. So I told myself I made a commitment.
Yeah.
Everybody needs a little emotional support during this time because it's pretty scary. Yeah. And I felt like I just needed to do that. And I committed to people. I said, I'll do it as long as we're in quarantine. And I thought it was going to go 2 weeks. And then, and, you know, now we are in it 317, almost a year later. And, wow. You know, I had to give up a lot of other stuff to be able to do this, because the preparation time on these things and the you know, getting people like you to do it and you know, doing the research to figure it out, you know, takes some time. So I think it just, all it did is it helped me understand what I'm capable of, because, you know, if you'd have asked me at the beginning, would you do 300 days in a row of this, I would have said, no, I don't have the time. Yeah. And, but it's been good, and it's really been worthwhile doing. So I'm very happy I did it.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. I mean, it is, I can totally understand what you're saying. I mean, you probably wouldn't have signed up for and made the commitment if you'd known exactly what it was, but sometimes that's how it works, right? You make a commitment and you find out what it is, you know, as you go. But wow, I mean, I legit just say I'm super impressed, because I mean, I've thought about this kind of stuff. In fact, I'm thinking about doing something myself that, you know, because I do live streaming, but I don't do it every day like you do. And I feel like it's just something that I weigh pretty heavily, because, you know, it's such a commitment, and I'm just really impressed that you've, you know, made that commitment, but then also been able to do it, because it's, man, that's a good job.
So can you explain to us a little bit of, thank you, what you're doing?
Yeah, absolutely.
Understand what's going through your head.
Yeah. So as I'm going, like, basically my main thought is I'm working on a black canvas, and there's a couple reasons that I like to work on a black canvas. I don't all the time, but sometimes I do. And one of the reasons I like to is because I feel like it's a metaphor for my life. And there was a time in my life when I was struggling with addiction, and I had no hope. There was no color in my life. It was dark and depressing, and so there's kind of that part of it for me where I feel like in what my experience was that God brought color and light into my life. So there's that part of it that's kind of like this existential reason I like painting on black, because it reminds me of where I've been and where I'm going. But the other part that I like about painting on black is that you control the light. And everything about a painting is about light, right? Where's the center of interest? Well, it's where you usually have your strongest contrast between light and dark. And so when I paint on black, what I never would have done it by myself, but I took a workshop very early on when I was learning from a guy named Mike Svaab. He's a Canadian artist, and he's a really great guy, like super amazing teacher. And he just, every day of the workshop, he had us paint on a different color, or just kind of had a different approach to starting and doing a painting. And on the last day of the workshop, we painted on black. And it was one of those days that was beginner's luck, like I'd been watching him all week and trying my best to emulate what he was doing. And that last day, I felt like I really kind of had soaked in enough that I was able to do some stuff that was good. And my painting, it actually turned out like, I don't know if you've ever had that experience, but I feel like there are little gifts along the way that you get. It's like you overachieve for where you are in your painting career, but it's like, whoa, how did that happen? And that's what happened to me that day. Was I painted this painting, and it was way better than anything I'd ever done. And I thought, oh, like painting on black, it kind of made me think, oh, painting on black is really neat, because look, I can do this. And it didn't always turn out like that after that, but it still kind of gave me this picture that it could be fun. But when I'm doing this, like if it wasn't for the fact that I put on this red up there, and you just looked at this, you wouldn't have much to look at. You wouldn't really see that much about what I'm doing, because there's so much that's dark in there still. And so when I paint on black, it really is a kind of an effort to work backwards. It's and this is something that I can do here really easily. And this is what I was saying earlier about painting with acrylics, is I can do so many. Like this is already dry here, right? So I can go on there and I'm going to mix colors, and it's not going to, it's just going to cover it. And acrylics, there's several reasons I started working in acrylics. One being that I didn't have a studio, and, I didn't have space to have oils and keep them safe and keep them out of the way and all that kind of stuff. But the other, reason was, one of the reasons that I like them, because my dad and my mom are artists also, and they had always worked in watercolor when I was growing up, and so that was kind of what I was used to. But I'm a very spontaneous kind of person, and I'm not a very good planner. I'm much better now than I used to be in terms of general life planning, but the part about art that was hard for me with watercolor was that if I made a mistake, I felt like I was stuck. There wasn't that many things that I could do to change it. And with acrylics, the thing that I love so much is that, I have the total freedom to experiment and try things, and just, I don't know what's going to happen. Well, let me just see. I'll just put down a brush stroke.
Let me ask you a question. So, one thing I would be curious about, first off, I assume you toned that canvas black yourself. You didn't buy it black.
No, I didn't buy it black. I have some black gesso that I just toned it with. All right.
So the second question is, over time, like let's say 100 years from now, I know oftentimes paintings darken, and oftentimes if you paint over something that's dark, there's a famous painting, I think it's a Velázquez painting, that it's got an extra leg on the horse that's showing through over time.
Oh, really?
Will that black over time influence the painting and have that dark sink in and make the painting even darker?
You know, that's a good question, and I can't speak, you know, from experience, because I obviously, you know, acrylics
Not
were
100 years
invented.
old yet.
Yeah, and acrylics aren't 100 years old yet. So, but from what I know, I mean, this is the crazy thing about acrylics. Like, so if they were going into that museum and they were going to fix that painting that you were just mentioning, if they were going to do something, guess what paint they would use? They'd use acrylics, because acrylics bind very well to things. And acrylics, well, there's a few reasons. One of them is just that they like to have a distinction between the original layer, which is generally oil. But the other reason is that it is so versatile, and you can do so many things. And acrylics stays flexible, so it actually probably will outlast oils. You know, think about the problem of plastic in the world, right? Why do plastic bottles last forever? Well, it's basically a polymer, and acrylic paint is a man-made, it's a polymer, and it's a problem with plastic bottles. But if you're talking about artwork, it's a really good thing, right? You want your painting to last a long time.
Well, it could be, but I guess if you wanted to take that same argument, if you took acrylic house paint, the colors can fade over time, and so I think we should get an expert on sometime to give us some information on it. I certainly don't want to diminish it. I'm just curious about it. So I just want to mention to everybody.
So there is a big difference between acrylic house paint, though. You know, that because the pigment in artist quality acrylic paint and artist quality oil paint is the exact same pigment. So really what happens with house paint is that you have very non-quality pigments, and it's not made at all in the same way. So there's a big difference between those things for sure. And that's why, you know, if you're thinking about, well, could I just use house paint? Well, no, not really. You know, it's not the same. But anyways, you were gonna.
Oh, I was just gonna mention to everybody who's tuned in that Jed Dorsey is our guest. He's going to give away the finished painting at the end of the show for the live comments, and so make sure you're leaving comments. Also, I have giveaways, and so make sure you're leaving comments, because we pull from the comments for tomorrow. Tomorrow's prize is Make More Money Selling Your Art, my book. And also the winner of the plein air apron is Sharon Barley from Pennsylvania. So congratulations to Sharon. So put a comment in and make sure that you say where you're from. That's helpful, just so we see where people are tuning in from. And if you get a chance, please go ahead and share this broadcast so other people can discover Jed. All right.
Yeah. And if Eric was saying, hey, if somebody wins your painting from Norway or somewhere, are you okay shipping it? And yes, we are. We're okay. If you're from somewhere across the world, we'll be okay shipping this painting to you. So make sure you comment and say something, and we'll be happy to do that. And the other thing, Eric, I don't know if it's okay if I mention this real quick, but the other prize that we are going to give away is we did this miniature challenge, which is super fun. And I'm just showing you a few little paintings here that are kind of part of the miniature challenge that we do. And so that's another giveaway. It's actually 52 miniature lessons, which is really, it's pretty fun. A lot of people are enjoying it right now. So
yeah, so I should mention that Jed has a business called Acrylic University. He teaches online, and the website is up on the screen right now, so you can go there and check it out. And Jed, tell everybody how you and I first met.
Yeah, well, we met up in Kananaskis. Well, I actually just went back and watched Marla, her live stream with you, and that was where you had met her too. But yeah, I was up in Kananaskis at Fall Color Week. What was so cool about that year, Eric, and I was actually looking yesterday on the Fall Color Week and also Paint Adirondacks, because I want to come to Paint Adirondacks. I want to come to both, but because it was so fun. I mean, that was just such a good experience and so fun. But yeah, I was up in Canada near Banff where we met. Boy, I guess that was probably like three years ago or
Well,
something.
I've lost track of time because of the coronavirus, but I think it
Yeah,
was probably about
10 years ago, it feels like.
900 years ago.
Yeah. Remember those days when we used to go do things?
Yeah. Well, we're going to do them again. This year, we're doing Fall Color Week in the Adirondacks, and we're doing the Paint Adirondacks, the Publishers Invitational in the spring. So, and the reason is, Jed, that, you know, I have a home up in the Adirondacks that I spend my summers, and we have always had to come home to get the kids into school in August, and our kids went into college this year, so we were able to stay. And I experienced fall in the Adirondacks for the first time in 30 years, and I had forgotten how stunningly beautiful it was. And
cool.
I just spent, you know, I spent a few days in peak week just out painting and having a great time. And so this year we're going to do Fall Color Week in the Adirondacks, which will be, and we also managed to get a different place. So we're going to do the spring one at Paul Smith College, and we're going to do the fall one at this kids camp, which is a classic old Adirondack camp that was built in 1900, and it's just a beautiful property on a beautiful lake with layers of mountains. It's going to be really fun.
Well, that I know that does look super awesome. I was actually looking at that because it's Saranac Lake, right?
It's near there, yeah. Well, it's on the Saranac Lake, yes.
Yeah, and you know, I don't know if you know, but I used to work for Young Life back before I became a full-time artist. I actually worked for Young Life, and so I totally know it's a kids camp, you know, but their camps are extremely nice and usually in very picturesque settings. So I can imagine how beautiful that must be.
Well, when I went over to look at the camp, we had rescheduled Fall Color, or the Publishers Invitational, because June of the virus. So we thought, oh, it'll be over by July. Well, no.
Yeah.
So we had rescheduled. We went over to the camp and looked it over, and it's just spectacular. So anyway, I said, well, could we do it there in the summer? And they said, no, because we have kids here in the summer. Well, so we managed to get their very last open week, and the only reason it's open is because of the virus, and they weren't able to book it. So we're lucky; it'll never happen there again. So that's going to be Fall Color Week this year.
Yeah.
Well, I have a beautiful painting that you did for me in my office. I admired it. You had done a painting of another painter when we were all out painting in the snow in Canada.
Yeah.
And it was a kind of a very interesting perspective, because the view was looking down on the painter because you were up higher. And at the end of the week, you gifted that painting to me and had everybody's signature on the back of it. So it's very meaningful to me, and that was very generous of you.
Well, it was a fun. I felt like, you know, after I painted it, I just thought, you know, this kind of, it felt to me, whether it did for other people, but the painting kind of signified what the week was. Because it was, you know, if you remember, there was snow that had fallen right before we got there. We weren't necessarily planning on it being snowy, but there was snow, but it turned out to be such a beautiful kind of contrast between the color of the fall leaves and then the white of the snow and that kind of thing. And I remember I was up working I was trying to figure out what to paint, actually. That was really what it stemmed from. I was wandering kind of in one of those places where I was like trying to figure out what am I supposed to be looking at right now? And I looked down from this little bridge because I don't know if you remember, Gene Constanza was there, and he was painting on the bridge, and he was painting something. So I was walking over towards him, and I just happened to look down, and my roommate, whose name is John Mix, he was down painting down below, and I just thought, wow, that perspective is really interesting. And you can kind of see the snow and the rocks and all this stuff around him. And the thing that made me hesitate with it was because I was like, this is going to be kind of challenging because, it's like I'm looking down at this guy who's painting and, but I thought, well, might as well just try it, right? Because sometimes you just have to, you just kind of, with art, I feel like so much is about just stepping out and trying something, like you kind of have to overcome a little bit of fear every time you encounter your canvas. And so I'm glad that you enjoyed it. It was fun and it was meaningful the whole week. And so I'm glad that you are able to have that as a keepsake.
Yeah, it means a lot to me. I will tell you that I thought what was interesting is, here you are standing in a place where you have an incredible mountain range in front of you and some of the most beautiful scenery I've ever seen in my life. It made Yosemite look small, and yet you chose to paint a painting of another painter painting, and I think that's good because we kind of sometimes feel bound to this idea that we went all the way across the world and we went to this beautiful spot, but sometimes you're just not inspired to paint that. You got to find something else. So, but you feel a little obligated. It's like, wow, I spent all this money to come here. I should paint this. So
yeah,
I thought that was nice.
Well, there's a lot of, I don't know if you're familiar with the artist Sergei Bongart. He's Russian artist, or Ukrainian maybe or something. But
yeah, it's Russian.
He would, like, if you look at his art, he very rarely painted big, grand, majestic scenes. He would almost always paint kind of ordinary scenes and things that were, I remember reading in his book, somebody saying, yeah, we drove, it was kind of the same situation. We drove and we went to this place and, we're all looking out and I start painting, the mountains that are there, and I turn around and I see Sergei. He's turned around, not even facing the mountains, and he's painting this little bush or something like that. And I feel like for me, sometimes it's not about whether or not I'm that was very awe-inspiring, right? Like being in Banff and Kananaskis. I mean, it's the kind of place that you can't help but feel small when you're there, right? Because it's like everything is so grand. But the other part of it for me is that I feel almost sometimes like there's an intimidation to try to paint something that big on a tiny 8x10 canvas, And so because I remember one of the days everybody was lined up facing out, and I ended up lining up and facing out too, and I just remember thinking that exact thought. I'm like, how can I capture these mountains that are like, sheesh, however tall and however big and however vast and grand, and how can I put that, get anything even close to the feeling of what I'm looking at on my little 8x10 canvas. And it just felt totally, that's why I think why I might go, you know what? I'm just going to enjoy that. And I'm going to turn around. I'm going to paint something that I feel like I might be able to capture.
So tell us what you're thinking now. What's going on in your head?
Yeah. So like, I said earlier, that I'm working my way from dark to light. I just now put on a first coat back there in the sky. So I'm kind of getting the base of colors down. But when I'm working in acrylics, like what I'm thinking is I'm doing it in layers. I'm kind of just like working my way. And I know that this is dark because I can see that dark coming through, right? And like you were saying earlier, you know, I mean, that needs to be covered if I want that light to show up. So I know just from working in this medium longer that I know that it's going to take me 2 or 3 coats to get it to be as light as I want it to be. And for somebody who might be used to painting in oil or something, because I do believe that oil gives you the opportunity to have a little bit thicker paint and cover that with your initial brush stroke. And I mean, I can definitely put on thicker paint. I'm not working very thick right now, but I also use it as an opportunity to think about the layering that I can do and how that will affect the way that it looks in the end. So you'll see eventually how some of these layers I'm going to leave showing through. Some of them I'll cover up. And in general, like where I cover them up, often I don't cover all of it up. So there will be parts that will be kind of like a transitional area between one color, one part of the painting and the other. And I kind of do it that way so that there is a softening of the edges and stuff, because, you know, when you're working with different mediums work differently, right? And so you're always going to be, you know, but you're trying to accomplish some of the same things. Like when you paint in oil, you have a longer time to create a softer edge, right? So you can put stuff down and you can go back an hour or 2 later and you can rub your, you know, finger over it. You could take your brush and you could smooth something out or do something like that. With what I'm doing, I don't have as long to do that. So I have to figure out other ways to create softer edges. Or I need to smudge it right away or do something immediately. But one of the techniques that I've found that I can use is what I was just saying about like layering things. And so again, different medium, it affords different things, it calls for different things. But you're still working for the same effect, because you don't want your whole painting to have hard edges. You don't want, you know, everything to be shouting out at you. You want your eye to be led through your painting and to your point of interest. And so that's kind of what I'm thinking through now. And gradations like this, you know, just kind of getting a little bit of the color to be deeper, darker down here. And this is, like I said, this is a little place called English Boom on Camano Island here. And Camano Islands, you know, I lived in Indianapolis for a while. I've never lived anywhere further east, but I've always lived on the West Coast. And one thing about the West Coast is that it's relatively new, right? I mean, the history here isn't as long. You don't have hundreds of years of, you know, settlement. There's an extra couple hundred years on the East Coast, you know. But this is an old part of Camano Island, where one of the things that it was, a lot of the, you know, history of it was logging. And so there were a lot of these places that were set up as ports and things like that. So you have like all these old pilings and different things. I'm not actually sure completely what this exact beach was used as, but a lot of the area had logging, and they would have these big places where you know, the ships would come in and they would take the lumber from the Northwest and they'd bring it all around the world. So in fact, at one point, this little part of Camano Island they say that it was bigger than Seattle. So who knows? Things have gone.
Camano Island, people are asking where it is. It's outside of Seattle?
It is north of Seattle, about an hour. Yeah, there's there's a bigger island called Whidbey Island that kind of surrounds it. It's like and then we're just inside of that. But yeah, it's kind of, I lived in Vancouver, BC for 10 years. My wife is Canadian. And you know, I don't know, Eric, but I was telling Allie the other day that, because I know that she had, or you had another, I'm trying to think, you had another acrylic artist on a couple days ago. And she was from South Africa originally, right?
Yeah.
And I was just commenting to Allie because I feel like in my experience, there are more people in other countries, like more professional artists who might paint in like landscapes, who work in acrylic in other countries. And I feel like there's quite a few less in the States. And
well,
I don't know
find out from our readers, if you're someone who paints in acrylic either all the time or some of the time, just put in the comments right now what you do. So we'll get a read on it.
Yeah, that'd be fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd love to see that.
Also, I should mention to everybody, if you just tuned in, that we're going to give away Jed's painting during the live broadcast. We also, and we're going to pick from the comments. And we also are going to be giving away some other prizes for tomorrow. And he's going to give away a class at Acrylic University as well. All right. Okay, let's see what's happening here in the comments. See if we get them. Okay. Acrylics, oil and acrylics, acrylics, oil, acrylics and oil, acrylics, sometimes acrylics and watercolor, acrylics, switched to acrylics 4 years ago, acrylic and oil, water media and acrylics, a lot of acrylics. I use golden open acrylics.
Yeah.
Nice. Acrylics and oil, good. Getting a lot of comments. Thank you for that. That, by the way, is going to benefit you because if you have comments in there, we might land on you.
Yeah, but inadvertently, it's good to make random comments throughout the broadcast. If you know how this works, just keep commenting and you increase your chances of winning.
The more you enter, the more you can win, right?
Yeah, that's kind of funny. But it's true. It's true.
If you tuned in just now, our guest is Jed Dorsey, and he's got a training company called Acrylic University. You can visit it's acrylicuniversity.com. And today he's going to be giving away a course, but also he's going to be giving away this painting. And we're going to do it live towards the end of the broadcast, right close to the top of the hour. So hang around with us if you possibly can. Sorry to the folks watching the replay. Sometimes it pays to be live, but those of you watching the replay, we have prizes. Today's prize is my book, Make More Money Selling Your Art. And that book will be given away tomorrow. We'll pick a prize winner tonight after all the replays. So you'll get a chance to do that. All right.
Very fun. You've probably given away a lot of stuff over this period of time.
Oh, yeah. You know, again, it's kind of like I thought I was going to do it for 2 weeks, and I was giving something away I've given away tens of thousands of dollars worth of stuff.
Yeah.
But it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. Nobody was, buying a lot of stuff during coronavirus. It was just sitting there collecting dust. So
yeah.
No, I think we've actually had pretty good sales during coronavirus. Surprisingly.
Yeah. Do you have a read on what's happening this year with plein air events? Are there many plein air events happening that you're aware of?
Yeah, because plein air events are outdoors, a lot of people are going ahead and having them. Obviously, they're following safety protocols, but there's been quite a few this year already, and a lot of them are going forward. And of course, people are counting on things getting better soon. And
Yeah.
we are holding the plein air convention. What we don't know yet is if they will restrict the attendance. You know, for instance, if they make us socially distance in the auditoriums, then, you know, maybe instead of 1,000 people, we can only have 500. That's why we want people to get booked now, because they get in early. They have a better chance of being in that group. And of course, if people book and then we have to cancel or they can't make it because of coronavirus, there's a 100% refund policy. But we're planning on moving forward. I have a trip to Russia. I have a trip to Berlin and Vienna for art collectors. And
Oh, wow.
so lots going on. So I think, we're planning on it, and whether or not, we'll just have to kind of wait and see.
Yeah.
So you decided to lighten your mountains. Tell us what your thinking was.
Well, I'm actually looking. I just adjusted this camera a little bit too, because I was trying to see what it looked like and the difference. Sometimes, like if the camera's not set up exactly right, it looks a little different. But I'm not exactly trying to lighten them too much. It just is, part of it is like the color is probably pretty close to what I put down the first time, but part of it is just that it's covering that black a second time. And so it's lightening it by virtue of that. But I'm also kind of, whenever I put something down, I'm always looking at it. I'm always evaluating it. And right now it looks too light. But part of the reason it looks too light might be because the sky is not as light as it's going to be. And so I learned
relationships.
Yeah, it's all about relationships, right? And so, I got this from John Poon. I don't know if anybody out there has taken a workshop from John Poon, but he's a great instructor. I learned so much from him, and one of the things that I got from him was just how he was such a generous instructor. Like he cared so much about everybody. The first day of the workshop, and he's got a workshop coming up at Scottsdale Artist School in March. And if anybody wants to go to that, I'd highly recommend it, because it's really good. But one of the things that I was like really blown away with, that the first day of the workshop, this was a couple years ago, I was there, and he sat down. We were all kind of in there milling around, and then he had us all sit down in a semicircle, and he just asked everybody, what are you hoping to get out of this? And he took notes. He sat there with his notebook open, and he took notes on what everybody was hoping to get out of it. And he adjusted his plans accordingly. Like it was, and then when he went around to talk to people throughout the week, he knew what people were hoping to get, and he was doing his best to make sure that they got what they were hoping for. And anyways, but I got this idea from him. He kind of had the stages of the painting process, and I think I heard you talk to him about it too, where it goes from, well, I added one to it, because he starts with, I think he starts with draw, and then he goes to block in, and then refine, and then finish. And he kind of broke it down for himself in a way that he would have just kind of a way to evaluate each part of the painting. And all I did was I added to that design, because I feel like design is the first step, and maybe the most important step in my mind is like, do you have an idea of a design and that? But when I'm thinking about what was I going to say about that? I honestly don't remember.
We're talking about design. It's one of the first steps, one of the most important steps.
Yeah, well, design is definitely the most, I mean, in my opinion, like if you can have really good brushwork and really nice colors and really good stuff, but if your design isn't nice, then your painting is still going to be mediocre. But if you have relatively, average all the other stuff. You know, brushwork, colors are just kind of ho-hum. But, you know, I mean, it's why does a black and white photograph work? There's no color in it at all. But if it's got a really dynamic design, the contrast of the lights and the darks, you know, you're drawn to it. And it's not about the color. And so, yeah, I mean, I feel like that part of it is very important. And but there was something I was going to say, I think, about what I learned about those stages from him.
You know, you're too young for your brain to stop working like that.
I know.
Things like that happen to me all the time.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of sad sometimes when I think about that, but that's why I don't think about it too often.
No, you can't. You can't think about it. These things happen. I probably just distracted you somehow.
No.
Our guest today is Jed Dorsey. If you're just tuning in, he's going to be giving away this painting at the end of the show. Hang in there. Talk about your brushes.
Yeah. Yeah, these are Princeton Catalyst brushes. And actually, another thing I can thank you for, because I was introduced to these at the PACE conference a couple years ago in San Francisco.
PACE. PACE stands for Plein Air Convention and Expo, everybody.
Yeah. And I was walking around and I had my, you know, instructor badge on or whatever it was. And I didn't know how awesome it would be to have that on, because I was walking up by one of the booths and it was, I believe it was a Princeton brush booth. I'm quite positive, or maybe they were sharing it with somebody else, but and I was looking at some brushes and the guy said, "Hey, do you want to try these?" And I said, "Well, sure." And he goes, "Yeah, go ahead, try them. You know, you can have these." And I took them, and I'd never been that, I never cared that much about brushes, but after I used them, I thought, wow, these actually, you know, these were significantly better than what I was using before. And one of the reasons is that they have this, it's called a poly tip bristle. And basically the way I describe it is like, it's like a split end in hair, you know, like you have, you know, these little bristles that at the very end of them, they split apart. And so, but it's just at the very end. But what that does is it keeps the integrity of the brush it's still really firm. Like it's got enough firmness to push paint around and do fun stuff with the paint. But it also is very soft because it's kind of got that end that's, you know, split. And so anyways, I like them a lot for that reason.
Yeah,
and
they're great brushes, and they're great people too. Nice people. They're really passionate about art and artists.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been neat because we actually we've partnered with them some more. I'm actually going to do some little videos showing off some of their other brushes here in a couple weeks. But yeah, they're great. It's really funny how things work too, because I was in some random kind of Facebook group and I was asking for help with something, and I showed them my website, and I had somebody reach out to me and they said, "Oh, you know, I'm just kind of curious. I like your work and I'd love to see if you want to represent us." And she said, I work for Princeton. And I said, "Really?" I said, "I'm not a person who's fake. It would be hard for me to, you know, really advertise for something that I wasn't passionate about." But I said, "I actually really love your brushes and I would be delighted to, you know, be a spokesperson for them and just kind of talk about why
Nice.
I love them."
Nice. Yeah. Well, Jed, we're going to come up here in, it's about 10 minutes till the hour, and we're going to have to, we need a little time to give the painting away and give away the lesson. So I'm going to give you a couple more minutes, and then you can finish it later and post a picture in the comments.
Yeah.
We want to make sure we have time to do the giveaway, because
sounds good.
Some platforms will cut us off otherwise.
Gotcha.
I hope you guys are enjoying this today. I like this statement. Doug Greenman says, I have plein air on my brain all the time. Yeah, me too. It's been on my brain for the last 20 years, all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Doug is one of the, he's a star, with us at Acrylic University. He's a really great guy and really cool. He'd never, at least from what he says, I mean, sometimes I don't know if I believe him or not. He said he'd never painted really before, but you should see some of the stuff he's doing. It's really fun to see people grow and try new things and you know, really kind of thrive. So he's one of those. But that's the thing, is a lot of people really are interested in getting outside, right? You know, they
need to come to the plein air convention because it'll change their life. It's where you become connected to the tribe at the highest possible level. You know, get to meet people and have lunch with them and paint with them, hang out at night. It's really a lot of fun.
It is.
All right. So if you just tell us what things you would have to do to finish this painting, because I know you're kind of running out of time now.
I am running out of time. Well, you know, so for where I'm at, like a lot of this is going to come down to looking at the values. There's some nice clouds up here in the sky, and there's some differentiation in this landmass back there. So those are actually other islands and things like that. But so I'm probably going to come in and do a little bit of that, you know, make some variation in these hills back here. And I'm going to begin looking at, I'm going to probably reduce some of these posts a little bit to have a little bit more differentiation between those in size and things like that. And then I'm going to kind of stand back and I'm going to look at the whole thing. And like I said, like some of the colors and some of the stuff that you're seeing right now are slightly different than what I'm looking at. It's pretty close, but that's what I'm really going to do is I'm just going to evaluate it and look at it. You can see, like, I always end up with paint on my hands from smudging stuff. But I'm going to just like look at it and evaluate and kind of, you know, that last step of the design or the process that John Poon taught me is, you know, finish. And he said, you know, a lot of times you go from drawing, you block it in, then you refine things, you start, you know, and that's what I'm kind of doing right now is I'm trying to bring shape and value, you know, like form to what's going on. And then the last step is finish. And a lot of times you need to step away from your painting for a bit of time. You know, sometimes after, I think it's Mike Hernandez who says, like, you have about 45 minutes of concentrated effort that your brain's good for. And after that, maybe you start losing a little bit. And so sometimes I find, like, I just need to step away, come back, look at it again. And there's going to be some stuff that'll stand out to me, like, and I might not notice it. Maybe I go, oh, that bright red little orange spot, that's too much. You know, I need to get rid of that. So evaluate and then make intentional brush strokes. That's how I'm going to finish.
Well, why don't you come back on screen? Thumbs up and applause. Everybody give Jed thumbs up and applause. Beautiful work. Jed, hey, nice job today. So the way we're going to do the giveaway is what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip through the comments. I'm going to go all the way down to the last comment. Okay. And people get them in real quick. And then I'm just going to flip through. So why don't we start with the other prize, the prize of the Acrylic University.
Yeah.
Okay. So to explain what that prize is.
Okay. So the miniature painting challenge is, it's actually, the idea behind it is to encourage you to paint and just to get you in a regular habit. So every week for 52 weeks, you're going to get delivered a lesson. I mean, you'll log in or whatever to our site, but you'll have a new lesson every week, and it's going to be a very simple miniature little painting that's doable. And so that's what it's the miniature painting challenge, and we're going to give one of those away.
That's going to be a very helpful thing. Okay, ready? And now here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, when I go, and then you just say stop, and wherever my cursor is, ready, go.
Stop.
Okay.
See? That was quick. I want to get one of those last people. Last shall be first. The winner
is Melissa B. We don't know who you are, Melissa B., but you're going to have to reach out to me in the comments, or reach out to Jed and make sure so we can send that to you. And so Melissa B is going to win the prize. Thank you. Well, all right. Now, the next prize, I'm going to go down to the bottom again.
Okay.
Let this one go a little longer.
This one I'm going to let it roll.
All right, go. Here we go. Ready? This is to win the painting.
Okay, and stop now.
Maggie Hernandez. Maggie Hernandez. Wow. Now, if you guys work this out right, Maggie Hernandez is in Saudi Arabia, but she's in America as we speak. She got stuck here because of the airlines, and so Maggie, you're going to have to communicate, and we'll make sure that you get that, and you get that way you can send it to wherever you're going to be in America.
For sure. And if it's helpful, they can find me on Facebook and just message me there if there's a confusion about how to reach me directly, or if you have a way to get me their contact information, that's wonderful.
Okay, so you guys reach out to either me or to Jed, and we'll connect you. Jed is at Acrylic University. You can go to his website, and I'm sure you can do the contact us there. It's at acrylicuniversity.com, and so you can just go there and contact him or contact me, and we'll put you guys in touch. Jed, you were fabulous today. Thank you for being on today. Congratulations. Acrylic University, I know, is thriving, and you're a good teacher. So good job.
Thanks a lot, Eric. I really appreciate being here, and good job to you too. You're a hero of mine. Your resilience through this pandemic is amazing. So thanks for all that you do.
Well, that's very kind. Thank you so much, Jed. You guys hang around for a second. A couple of quick announcements. First off, we have prizes tomorrow. And so tomorrow we're giving away my book, Make More Money Selling Your Art, today at 3 p.m. Now, we're here every day at 12 noon Eastern, and we're here every day at 3 p.m. Eastern. 12 noon Eastern is my show, which we don't have a name for, but it's me interviewing artists who are painting. And then we have produced hundreds, I'm not sure how many hundreds, but hundreds of art instruction videos over the years with the very top leading artists. And so those art instruction videos, we're giving you samples every day. Today, we're giving you the great Catherine Statz, landscape painter. She's going to be doing Lazy Summer Day in oil. And so you want to be there for that. I would ask you guys, if you would be willing, just give me a follow on Instagram. It's Eric Rhoads. That's always helpful. Also, the Plein Air Salon Art Competition. We're getting close to the end where we're going to be awarding the prize at the Plein Air Convention. We do it monthly, and so you can enter. Dave Santiani's won the $15,000 check last year. There's $30,000 in cash prizes. There's monthly prizes. And if you win in any category in any given month, you're automatically entered into the national competition. And everybody who wins is like, I couldn't believe I won. I didn't. As a matter of fact, Stuart White is visiting me right now, and he's like, I couldn't believe I won. And so enter the Plein Air Salon Art Competition before the end of this month. If you are new to us, we have a free gift for you. It's called 97 Amazing Painting Secrets, 2 hours of video. It's at 97tips.com. If you want the replays, everybody always says, where do I find all the replays? Because many are discovering us at the last minute. And so we've done this 317 days in a row. All the replays are on YouTube. Just search Streamline Art Video. And while you're there, hit the subscribe button. All right. I think that's all I got for you today. I do have either 3 or 4 seats left to my Russia trip that's going to take place in September. It's 100% money back guarantee if we can't do it. And so check that out. Last but not least, I don't know if I have a slide for this. I don't think I do. We did Watercolor Live last week. We had a record number of people attending. It was the largest art conference in the world. We had 40 countries attending. It's a virtual art conference. We're doing a new one, second annual Plein Air Live. Plein Air Live was our first one. we had a huge number on that. So the second annual Plein Air Live is going to take place in April. And of course, there's a deadline in this month because the price is going to go up at the end of this month. So go to pleinairlive.com and check out the faculty. But I've got Kevin McPherson back. I've got Joseph McGurl. I have Lori Putnam. Kathleen Dunphy. Got a lot of really, really brilliant artists on board. I can't mention them all right now, but check it out. It's at pleinairlive.com. Also, I should just mention to you guys, see if I can find that. We have some job openings, but I'm not finding the slide. I guess it's gone away. But if you're interested, we have some things. Just email me, Eric, and Eric at Plein Air Magazine. So thanks again to Jed Dorsey. Jed, you're a rock star, and we will see you. Remember, the goal here every day is to keep you upbeat, feeling good about yourself, and just getting your head out of all the other craziness going on. So I hope this is helpful. I'm Eric Rhoads, publisher, a fine art connoisseur, and Plein Air Magazine, and part of Streamline Art. Thank you. Have a terrific day. Bye-bye.